bit about John Lorinc, who's going to come up and talk, I hope, a lot more about his book. I have two confessions to make, I think, to start with. One is that I had read and liked, actually more than just liked, John's book, No Jews Live Here, long before it came up for consideration by the jury for the Canadian Jewish Literary Awards. It's an evocative, deeply felt family history interwoven with the tragedies of the 20th and 21st centuries in Hungary. It is universal in its themes and its portrayal of John's formidable grandmother. I have known women like that, John. And I just thought that it was a riveting read, and I'm recommending it to anybody. I've actually brought a copy with me. But there are more copies available in bookstores. I just want to reassure you of that. My second confession is that both John and I come from the same basic geographical place, that being Hungary. And his parents were 56ers, as was my mother, and in fact was I as a kid. And now, John, if you could come up here, while you make your way up, I'll just mention that John is a journalist, and you've probably read his columns and stories in the newspaper, and he's an author of several books. Dream Cities, The Pursuit of Urban Utopias, won the Vasily Prize for Public Policy, and it was also shortlisted for the Donner. So John comes to this award as a previous winner. I'd like to welcome him to the stage.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Anna, for that very generous introduction. So I'd like to thank the jurors and the Canadian Jewish Literary Awards for this great honor. It's very meaningful to me. And it's wonderful to be here with all the other esteemed authors who've won prizes this year. I'd also like to thank my publisher, Alana Wilcox, who's in the audience somewhere, and said yes to a kind of an improbable book, which is actually explicitly not included in Coach House Books' list of types of books to publish, which is to say memoirs. I'd also like to thank my wife, Victoria Foote, who's also here somewhere, who gave the manuscript a vigorous reading and posed some really important and difficult questions that most of the answers are incorporated in the text. Not all, but most of them. So I'd like to, if whoever's working this slideshow could pull up the next picture. There. So this book is about many different things. And it's about topics I don't normally write about. If any of you have read my writing, I'm a reporter. I cover municipal politics and the antics of local politicians and real estate and planning and development. I don't normally write about stuff as close to this, as close to myself as this book. And I don't normally use the first person in my writing. So this was kind of a departure, but it's a book that has been kicking around in my head for a long time, because it's about stories that I grew up with and I was immersed in, because that was the world I lived in. I was born in North Toronto in 1963, but my parents were Hungarian refugees who came in 1956. Many of their friends were the same. We ate a lot of Hungarian food. We went to, all the Hungarian joints along here, along Bloor Street for schnitzel and for Dobostort. So this is a topic that is close to my heart. The book is about many different things. It was actually quite challenging for the publisher to come up with a blurb for the back cover, but it looks at the sort of trajectory of Hungarian Jews, especially those who ended up in Budapest. before World War II, what happened to them during World War II, which is not such a well-known story in the annals of, popular knowledge about the Holocaust. And then what happened after the war during the communist times and then through exile after 1956 and the Hungarian Revolution. I talk about my father's experiences in a forced labor camp, the way my parents met, improbably over an autopsy because my father asked my mother out. He was a pathologist working at the university in Budapest, and she was applying for a job, and he hit on her just before he went and did an autopsy. So the book has lots of elements to it, but the main sort of the germ of the idea and the core of the book is this lady here, who is my maternal grandmother, and her name is Ilona Barta. That's the name that I knew her as. Ilona is the Hungarian name for Helen. Barta was her married name. Her husband, Paul, his family's original name was Berger. She was born in Ilona Fekete, but actually Schwartz before her parents changed their name to Fekete, which is a Hungarian word for black. She was born in 1906 in a town in the middle of what's now Romania, what was then Transylvania, part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce the name of the town. She liked to brag for some reason throughout her life that she was born in the same year as the San Francisco earthquake, and which is how she pronounced it. So she was, and her family eventually in 1920 converted. They became Hungarian Lutherans, moved to Budapest, changed their name, and her parents, her father and her uncle reestablished their business in Budapest. I knew her obviously as an elderly woman. She came to our house every Sunday for dinner. She was a complicated, challenging person. She was quite fascinating. She was incredibly difficult. The working title of the book was Best Appreciated from Afar. She's been gone for a long time, almost 40 years. And I once tried to pitch a magazine feature about her to Walrus or Saturday Night, I forget. And they, sensibly said, no, why would we do a profile of somebody who's been dead for 30 years and doesn't have any claim to history or no particular claim to Canadian culture or anything. But the idea just sort of kept, it was alive in my mind. And so eventually I pitched Alana Wilcox, who says yes to way more things than she says no to. And the result is this book. So I'm going to read a very brief passage, which speaks to a bit to what Ilana was like. Ilana, I think, would be very surprised, possibly chuffed to be the subject of a book. She would also probably be kind of appalled to be a subject of a book about Jewish life in Hungary. And I'll tell you why in a moment. Before her decline, my grandmother was a character, but one best appreciated from afar. She had deep-set blue eyes and a penetrating, impassive gaze. Her short stature was accentuated by a pronounced hump. She boasted about her legs and wore sparkling, brightly colored dresses. Ilana loved men, especially those who were tall and good-looking, and she flirted well into her 80s. I witnessed this. Ilana gossiped, played cards, went to the horse races. She was a dedicated fan of the celebrity pianist Liberace. She spoke 5 languages. I don't remember her ever expressing any interest in politics, but she was fascinated by the extramarital affairs of Margaret Trudeau, then wife of Canada's Prime Minister. When she traveled, mostly by bus, Ilana installed herself in the lobbies of expensive hotels, where she watched the patrons and talked to anyone. For all her flamboyance, Ilana was also unfiltered and argumentative. No thought or opinion, no matter how ill-considered or odious, went unexpressed. She frequently made brazenly anti-Semitic remarks, which was perplexing because she herself was Jewish by birth and had married into a Jewish family. What's more, she criticized almost everyone around her, especially my mother, my uncle, and my sister. But Ilona liked me, and I, in turn, found her strangely fascinating. The summer after I turned 16, I worked in my uncle's Schmata factory, one of Toronto's first wholesale men's clothing warehouse outlets. One day, I noticed Ilona from a distance, walking towards the office for a visit, her high heels click-clacking on the concrete floor. The plant manager, Les, a Holocaust survivor with a world-weary manner and a number still visible on his forearm, stood nearby. "Here comes trouble," I said to him in a stage whisper. "What do you mean?" Les replied in his heavy Hungarian accent. "Look at her. She's just a sweet little old lady." "Les," I responded, "you have no idea." So what he had no idea of, besides all her eccentricities, is that she pulled off this remarkable survivor's, not trick, but she was an extraordinary survivor. I wouldn't be standing here if it wasn't for the things that she managed to do to protect my mother, my uncle, her husband for a while during the worst parts of the siege of Budapest in 1945. And then she did it all over again in the aftermath of the war when her family, they had nothing. And then did it all over again when she fled with her teenage son to Montreal, in 1956. And then once more when she came to live in Toronto. So she was kind of an extraordinary person, best appreciated from afar. So I am really privileged to have had an opportunity to write about her life and all the other things around her.